at Ohama to see Fedhawk take on the White Falcons. It's a really exciting game. We're really pumped for it. But first off here, Marshall, you walked away from me. Never mind. Forget that. Anyway, Gridiron Glory starts right now. What's up and welcome to episode 6 of Gridiron Glory. Week 5 of games are done and now we are at the halfway point of the season. Tonight we sent out crews to Athens, John Glenn, Sheridan, Jackson, and Ohama. Conference championship implication and playoff points are on the line. We got to see some nail biters and also the opposite, some blowouts. So stick around to see which team I'm talking about. But first, we're going to start with the FAC and the Jackson Ironmen. Tonight, the Ironmen look to stay undefeated. When rival Wheelersburg came to town, FAC lead reporter Will Collins was at Alumni Stadium to watch the Ironmen take on the Pirates tonight. Lately, Jackson has been in a slump against the Pirates. Will, break it down for us.
Joe, the Ironmen showed up against the Pirates tonight. They took advantage of the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball and didn't make anything easy for Wheelersburg tonight. Jackson hadn't beaten Wheelersburg in 4 seasons, but it all changed tonight. With Coach Andy Hall steering the ship tonight against the Pirates, the Ironmen got to work early at Alumni Stadium. After a fumble recovery on the opening kickoff, Jaden Spires takes the handoff, bounces off some Pirates, and goes down inside the 5, setting up this 3-yard rushing touchdown by Bryce Graham, putting the Ironmen up 7-0 early on in the first. The Pirates would get their chance to respond, but running back Evan Horsley would be clobbered in the backfield by a host of defenders. Later on in the quarter, with the Ironmen knocking on the door again, Mitchell Johnson would get the call and rumble down inside the 3-yard line, setting up quarterback Jared Eisenhower to plunge into the end zone from 1 yard out, and the Ironmen would take a 14-0 lead at the end of the first quarter. On into the second quarter now. The Pirates quarterback Aaron Masters would find Evan Horsley on the fullback screen, but the drive would stall after that 27-yard gain. Here you see Jacob Winters, the young gun backup QB for Jackson, and here's the impact he made. Winters would take the snap on this QB keeper, start to head to his left, but see an open running lane, cut back across the field, and turn on the Jets. That man is gone, ladies and gentlemen. He would take this run 54 yards for a touchdown to open the second half, and the Ironmen would take home the win 35-15 tonight.
Yeah, it was definitely all Jackson tonight, Will. Jackson got their first win against Wheelersburg in the past 4 seasons. That defense is legit this year.
Joseph, I know I say it every time I go to Jackson, but the Iron Curtain defense is the hallmark of this Jackson team. They get off the field on third downs and give their offense plenty of time to work. The Jackson defense dominates the line of scrimmage what seems like every Friday night. When talking to Coach Andy Hall last week, he believes that their whole defensive philosophy begins with their front 7. The more pressure they get early, the more they seem to get throughout the game. They were in the face of quarterback Aaron Masters and running back Micah Matthews all night, stuffing running lanes early on in this contest. The Jackson defense also had decent success defending against the pass, allowing just 126 yards through the air.
Yeah, that defense was really able to set up the offense tonight, like you said, but did they lean on one guy tonight, or would you say they spread out the touches?
Joseph, as I said earlier, the defense was able to make stops on third down and get off the field, which gave the offense more time to operate. Tonight, the Ironmen spread the love with the rock. 6 Ironmen had the opportunity to carry the ball more than once tonight. Quarterback Jared Eisenhower kept the ball himself. Backup quarterback Jacob Winters took on some QB sweeps. Jaden Spires, their workhorse, took sweeps to the outside. Bryce Graham and Bryce Park showed their prowess when running the trap game, and fullback Mitchell Johnson handled duties on dive plays. Coach Hall also mentioned last week they were going to employ some new offensive personnel and sets, and that was on display tonight. The Ironmen did it all.
Well, it seems like this Jackson team is for real.
They're halfway to a perfect season, and they are poised to enter FAC play next week. They're 5-0 and hungry for more.
Yeah, thanks for the great work, Will. And for the lowdown on the action in Jackson tonight. Seemed like a really good game. Wish we could have been there. What a big result for the Ironmen to finally topple the Berg. Jackson came in with a good game plan and the resiliency of family to get the job done. Though family in this case can be taken literally. FAC reporter Ryan Kincaid has more on Coach Hall and his football family.
Football is family. Truer words have never been spoken. The fans support the players form a brotherhood, and this band of brothers look up to their coaches as father figures. In the case of the Jackson Ironmen, metaphor becomes reality. In the past few years, head coach Andy Hall has been joined by his father on the sidelines and his son on the field.
Coaching my son, and understanding that what I would want my son to experience if I wasn't the head coach. What do I want, how do I want my son to be treated? I watched my dad treat kids when I was little, in the same role that my son was. I was probably 5 or 6 when I started going to football practice with my dad, and seeing how those kids responded to him and his discipline and leadership. And then later on in life, them coming back and telling me, your dad was a big part of the reason why I'm successful today.
For Coach Hall, football entered his life early on in the picture.
But just growing up in a football family, my dad's coached all his life, and when I was little, watching him come home and had the 16 millimeter projectors, and watching game film on the refrigerator door or on the blank wall in the living room, and sitting there and watch him do that.
3 generations of Halls claim Alumni Stadium as their adoptive home. Though their opponents tonight hold another special connection in their hearts.
My dad was a defense coordinator at the time. He coached with Ed Miller. Ed was a Hall of Fame coached for 35 plus years, and led Wheelersburg to some really big season. Of course, state championship in '89.
Whether on the field or in the classroom, Coach Hall's message to his football family remains the same.
This is a true family affair, and I believe when you see on Friday nights and you see all the alumni coming back each week, you kind of feel that family atmosphere.
What a great story. You got to treat your brothers in the trenches like, brothers. The unbreakable bond this team possesses could see this undefeated squad go all the way this year. Jackson is for real, like we just said. Ryan, nice job, my man, and best of luck to the whole Hall family. Now we move our attention to the TVC Ohio. The Athens Bulldogs got a much-needed win last week against a conference foe, and the Vinton County Vikings did the same thing. And TVC Ohio lead reporter Jacob Murray is here to explain who would win their second straight game here tonight.
Right. Joseph, on paper, this is a one-sided rivalry. Since 2008, the Athens Bulldogs have won all 11 straight games against the Vinton County Vikings, but the Vikings always seem to play tough at home, and they were looking to end that losing streak to the Bulldogs here tonight. Now, after playing on the road last week, the Vikings were ready to play in front of their home crowd. On the opening kickoff, Corbin Stalder takes it to the outside and brings it down the sideline to their own 49-yard line, setting them up with great field position. And on that first drive, Joey Moore would roll out to his right, and he would find a way to cut back to the left, avoiding some more defenders, and he would high-step his way in deep into Viking territory. Then he would take the direct snap himself, breaking tackles on his way to a 16-yard touchdown run. A missed extra point by the Bulldogs would put Athens up 6-0. Vinton County would go 3 and out, and Moore would take over again. And on a 3rd and 23 play, connects with Nate Trainer for the 30-yard reception, bringing them down to the 1-yard line. And Moore would find Braden Halbert on a fade route on the next play to put them up 13-0. It was all Athens in the first quarter, but Vikings coach Travis Bethel would coach these guys up, and they would respond. Quarterback Braylon Dameron takes the snap, and receiver Zach Radabaugh would make the juggling catch to start off a long drive for the Vikings. However, they would turn it over on downs, but then hold the Bulldogs to a 3 and out, and on the ensuing punt, Zane Carr returns the punt through traffic into great field position, and they would capitalize. Running back Jacob Wells was fed the ball all night and would run it in from 15 yards out. Logan Baker would tack on another touchdown to go up 14-13 at the half, but the Bulldogs would go on to win this one 33-28.
Yeah, Joey Moore and Nate Trainer, that's a pretty lethal duo, but the Vikings did play hard in this one, though. Don't get that wrong, but overall, were they able to give the Bulldogs a bit more of a scare tonight?
Athens defense has struggled all year doing one thing, containing the run. The Vikings tried to exploit that all night, and they would succeed all night long. Look, the Vikings threw the ball a total of 3 times in the first half. Let me emphasize for that for you. Only 3 total times in the first half, only 7 times the entire game. Their run game was on full display, throwing off the Bulldogs' D with counters and other tricky running plays to gash the defense. This shows how potent the Viking running back can be behind the two-headed monster of Jacob Wells and Logan Baker.
Yeah, that Vinton County running game was on full display tonight. How were the Bulldogs able to hang in on this one? It was a real nail-biter there at the end.
Yeah, the defense might have struggled with the run, but they made their stops when they needed to. Key stops on 4th down in the second quarter and the end of the game with the Vikings in the road zone saved the game for Athens.
So it sounds like this one, it takes key stops when it matters the most. Would you say that that was the biggest thing that happened tonight?
Well, that's one way of looking at it, Joe, but the staple of this team is their offense. Athens got off to a quick start in the first quarter, then slowed down in the second, but after halftime, they were back to their old ways centered around their QB1, Joey Moore. He was able to throw it very effectively for the second week in a row and use his legs to wear out the Vikings front seven. With key throws in the fourth quarter, like the 60-yard touchdown throw to Nate Traynor to cut the lead to 3 and run it in himself, and they would take that lead very late in that one. So they came in with that swagger, and they left with that confidence for the schedule ahead. And with the win, the Bulldogs have started out 2-0 in the TVC Ohio play and make that 12 in a row for the Bulldogs over the Vikings.
Yeah, that's right. It is scary to see this team, like we just said, Joey Moore, Nate Traynor, get things moving. It's a really scary sight. There's someone to watch in the TVC Ohio for sure. Thanks for the work, Jacob. And here is our tweet of the week. It is from, Gridiron Glory. Earlier this week, we put out a poll to see which conference had the best student section, and the MVL won with 51% of the vote. Then we put out more polls to see which school had the best student section out of the whole MVL, and then we got more than 1,000 votes. Congrats to the new Lexington fan base. With 34%, they have won. So we will be heading out to see that Panther student section next week. They've been tweeting at me all week. I'm really excited to see what they got. Thank you to everyone that voted. It was awesome to watch it all go down. I was constantly checking to see who was in the lead. So again, thank you to the voters. Now it's time for our first MVL action of the night. The Maysville Panthers went on the road to battle with the John Glenn Little Muskies. MVL lead reporter Paul Roth is out there at Muskingum University to tell us more about the matchup. But unfortunately, due to technical difficulties, we can't see Paul right now, but I will talk about the game a little bit. John Glenn won this one 36-13. Now, this was a slow start. There was 0 scores in that first quarter. John Glenn then scored twice in the second, and it was over. They went up 13-0 at the half. John Glenn rattled off 3 straight touchdowns before Maysville gets a touchdown as time expired to make it 36-13. Evan Williams scored 2 rushing touchdowns for John Glenn. Caden Hall had 1 rushing touchdown for Maysville. Overall, a pretty intense game. There were a lot of turnovers in the first half, though. 2 fumbles for John Glenn, not what you want. 2 fumbles and an interception for Maysville, not what you want. John Glenn looks to make it 3 in a row next week at West Muskingum. Maysville's trying to bounce back as they return home to face the Morgan Raiders. Now, thanks, Paul, for making the drive. Unfortunately, we couldn't see it, but these 2 teams have a real chance to make a run in the MVL. Now heading into another MVL matchup between West Muskingum and Sheridan was in store. It was homecoming night, and only one team could be crowned king. MVL reporters Alex Porter and David Butts covered the matchup between the Generals and the Tornadoes, and they were in the film room. Guys, what do you got for me?
Joe, it was a close game throughout the first quarter with no team able to really get on top. West Muskingum had their own stretch of great plays, but it really didn't help them in the end.
That's right, Alex. Penalties were the story of the game early on, preventing either offense from getting into much of a rhythm. But even without the big yardage numbers, this homecoming battle certainly saw its fair share of points.
And as you say, David, penalties. It was looking like 4th of July with all the flags. There was some block in the back, some face masks, and some holding calls. So it was really stopping both offenses and defenses from getting started.
It was definitely a flag party, Alex, but the Generals were the team that prevailed.
Right.
It was homecoming night in Sheridan as the Generals were looking to get a win to cap off the special night, and the Tornadoes were looking to spoil the party. First play of the game for West Muskingum, Braxton Higgins drops back in the pocket and fires a pass that gets picked off by Jared Elson.
After a plethora of plays that didn't really allow either team to score, Sheridan got on the board with this pass, 17 yards from Nathan Johnson to Shea Taylor. The General defense would scoop up a fumble on the following play to increase the lead 14-0.
It wouldn't take long for West Muskingum to storm back as Higgins flips a short one to Landon Murray on the screen pass, and he's going to take it 79 yards to the house for the Tornadoes, but they'd miss the 2-point try, narrowing the margin to just 8.
And after the Tornadoes' quick score, they'll try to catch Sheridan sleeping with the onside kick, and they'll recover, taking the ball and the momentum on their side. Later in the drive on 4th and long, Higgins looks for his favorite target and again, but it's knocked down in completing the ball back to Sheridan. And from that point forward, it would be all the Generals.
There would be plenty more scoring for Sheridan, but it would be on the very next play that Alex Ogle is going to start to put it away on the 40-yard touchdown catch from Nathan Johnson on the way to 56-18 stomping of West Muskingum on homecoming.
That's right, David. Sheridan eventually blew the game open late in the first quarter and for sure in the second. In the first half, Sheridan only had 21 offensive plays, which resulted in 42 points at halftime.
A large portion of that offense came mainly from Shea Taylor and Alec Ogle, who combined for over 115 total offensive yards. And of course, quarterback Nathan Johnson's 3 touchdowns, 178 yards passing, showed that he was the catalyst tonight.
And now that we know that Sheridan was balling on both sides of the field, the Tornadoes were having a tough time to get anything going. They did start off slow, even though Sheridan did too. They were able to really get the grip on the game. The onside kick was a nice play, but the energy Sheridan played with just didn't allow Muskingum to get going.
Now, with that said, the Tornadoes will fall to 1-4, and Sheridan will improve to 4-1 with a path to the MVL title in sight.
So in the end, it was a special night for everyone involved in Sheridan. Homecoming tomorrow for the students and a huge MVL win for the team.
Yeah, definitely a cherry on top for that Generals and their fan base. It seemed like a really intense game. Thanks, guys. And our social media content has been thriving as of late. Thank you to all the people who have been liking our stories on Facebook and Twitter and sending us snaps throughout the week for written recaps of games and more in-depth feature stories. Go to WOUB.org for more. And like Gridiron Glory's page on Facebook. We post a lot. Follow us on Twitter and add us on Snapchat. We post a lot for more Gridiron Glory content. If you haven't seen the new pictures we put out on Twitter and Snap, go look at those. They're pretty snazzy if I say so myself. I like them a lot. Ohama, you got some great fans. The kids were energetic and wanted to show off the moves for the camera. And hey, I couldn't resist it either. They were trying everything they could to get the GG t-shirt. But we also had a person that, there's really no other way to put it, was Ohama's #1 fan. So here we go. Here's the fan of the week. It's a really fun video. I loved going to Ohama. It was so much fun. They were really exciting. It was a great bunch. It's a great video. Stick around. Here's our fan of the week. I just want to play catch. So what makes you the biggest fan? I know you said you hype people up, but do you just go cheering?
Oh yeah, I'm loud. I'm loud. Like, go Falcons! We are #1. Booyah!
Who is Zach Roush?
Hey, Zach Roush! Zach Roush!
I got told by someone that he was the biggest fan. Are you the biggest fan? Yeah? Can I ask you some questions? Do you know your school fight song or your school alma mater? Do you know that on you right now?
No.
Okay. Alrighty. My dad asked me to ask that. That's the only reason why.
I like to say hi to my grandpa. Hi, Papa.
See, I just saw you dancing, and I'm a dancer. I can't resist it. The beat moves me. Yeah, I get it. Yeah, I get it. What's with the unicorn?
I just my friend gave it to me, and I got real excited. It looks pretty good too. Cool. That's
Hey.
I can do it.
Oh! She got bunnies. Oh no.
Are we going now?
Hey. Okay. So you guys think you're the biggest fans? He just walked right over and he looked at Marino. He was just like, that would burn Marino's mouth. So if I'm getting my cloud up. Hey, Michelle. Yeah.
I got it!
There you go.
I got it!
There you go. The fan of the week. There we go.
Yeah! Thank you!
Yeah? Anything else? Here you go. Yeah, that was awesome. Shout out to Michelle for winning our fan of the week. The kids were crazy. Michelle was crazy. It was awesome to just walk around and see everybody. I am terrified when kids do backflips like that. So the whole time I'm freaking out and they're just like, I can do it, I promise. I'm like, go for it. I don't know, I was terrified. It was so scary. But Michelle was awesome. He is Ohama's #1 fan for sure. It was great. And it was also our game of the week. It was a battle across the border in good old West Virginia. It featured some players' names that we don't really get the chance to talk about too often, but they were more than deserve it tonight. Here is our game of the week for Week 5, the Federal Hocking Lancers versus the Ohama White Falcons.
take one opponent at a time.
Not worrying about the past.
And this year we actually got like some really good help.
Federal Hocking is just trying to make those strides to get better. Ohama's right there in the fight too in the Hocking. So this was a TVC Hocking game that we were really looking forward to all week. Federal Hocking looked for win number 2, and Ohama, they didn't want to let that home crowd down. Alrighty, TVC Hocking lead reporter Sam Wiesnitz joins me in the film room. And Sam, it was exciting crossing the river to see these two teams battle it out tonight.
Yeah, I got to take a little vacation. I crossed over the bridge into the Mountain State, and it was so energetic out there in Mason, West Virginia tonight for one of the biggest showdowns in the TVC Hocking that we always look forward to. The Ohama White Falcons were getting hyped up, but right across the field, the Federal Hocking Lancers were doing the same. The first quarter got off to a bit of a slow start, with both teams inching down the field. Fast forward to about 5 minutes left in the first. On this White Falcon possession, Abram Pauly connects with Braden Davenport. He finds some wiggle room and makes it just 1 yard toward the end zone. On the next play, Pauly shoves his way over the line, putting Ohama on the board 8-0. Now it's the Lancers' turn to make a move. A Noah Robinson punt return gets them in great field position. Gage Hart gets the handoff, but he bobbles the ball twice just in time for Nick Brewer to swoop in. It's Ohama's ball. Pauly has plenty of time to make a move, and he sends a bomb over to Hunter Board for a 51-yard touchdown. They're feeling good after this one. It's 16-0. Once again, the Lancers know that they can rely on Robinson to set them up with great field position, but the offense couldn't make anything happen on that drive. Toward the end of the first half, Robin intercepts the ball, hoping to turn the Lancers' luck around, but after a long drive, Fed Hawk returns the favor. The ball sent straight into the hands of Trevor Hunt with the clock at 0. He's got a clear path to the end zone. It's 40-0 at the half, and Ohama takes this one 48-24.
Yeah, we might be seeing that pick 6 a little bit later. That's a really tough loss for the Lancers, though. I know they were hoping to keep a close game tonight. It's not what they want, but it looks like the White Falcons offense is really moving. They were firing on all cylinders tonight.
Absolutely. They had a lot of guys that they could turn to, like Trevor Hunt, Hunter Board, Abram Pauly, and Braden Davenport, just to name a few. But their defense really gave Fed Hawk a run for their money and forced a lot of turnovers.
We've talked about him before, but Noah Robinson, he really seems to be a bright spot for Fed Hawk.
Yeah, Robinson had 1 interception and a few great punt returns just in the first half, but in the second half, Donnie McCain really stepped up with 3 touchdowns.
Yeah, I'm glad we got to see these two battle it out, but I know there was another huge game in the Hocking tonight that you were excited for.
Yeah, the Trimble Tomcats had a non-conference game against Worthington Christian and came away with a win, 34-6. Connor Wright had a great night with 37 carries for 255 yards. Plus, he scored all 5 of the team's touchdowns. At our Gridiron Glory Media Day back in August, both Cam Kittle and Connor Wright put a lot of weight on the outcome of this game.
A few games that we are unsure about. We know against most of our conference games how it's going to go because we've played them all 4 years. But we picked up Worthington Christian this year, and we're just really excited to see what we can do against them, to see how we could do in the playoffs potentially.
To be able to get to the playoffs, to get to that state championship game, it's all just a dream until we beat week 1 and week 5 Worthington Christian.
Yeah, the Tomcats were able to check off both those win columns, so now they're ready to go for the playoffs.
Yeah, I know they were really looking forward to that matchup. It looks like your predictions were right, though. After tonight's finish, I think it's safe to say that the Tomcats have quite the season ahead of them, and we were looking forward to see it. You know, they've been able to shut out so many teams. They're tough. They're a tough team. Sam, thanks for the great work as always. And this is our Snap of the Week. And so the story behind this picture is that Coach Rusty Richards wanted to show off the guns and prove to his star athlete that his muscles were in fact bigger than his. But what is also being shown, I mean, you can't miss it, it's the new big play hammer for the Buckeyes. The U has the turnover chain. Morehouse State uses the turnover cane, and now NY uses the hammer. I'm sorry, Keegan, but I think Coach got you on the guns. You can tell he's been hitting those bicep curls often. Thanks, guys. Another week of games, another week of highlight plays. This week features plays from all over our coverage, and I'm really excited to talk about it, so let's just get right into it. Come on now, let's show these plays, let's show these highlight plays. At number 4, Fed Hawk is looking to score, but it's intercepted by Wahama's Trevor Hunt. You just saw this. This was his second pick of the night, and this one was for 84 yards for the easy tutty. Wahama controlled the pace of the game, and the score at the end of the game really showed that. For number 3, we got Vinton County's Braylon Dameron to Zach Radaball with the back shoulder fade with the defender all in his grill. 2 hands, baby, good catch. And at number 2, Sheridan's Nathan Johnson to Alec Ogle. And he must be hitting leg day often because he shrugs off the defender as he holds on for dear life. He escapes for the easy touchdown with the help from the Landon Russell block there too. And for our top play of the night, it's Jaden Spires. All right, you're going to see a handoff here, and he gets tackled for the short gain. But oh wait, he keeps his balance. He keeps his balance on the defender. He gets his legs under him, and he runs for another 20 yards before he runs out of bounds. That's a big time play, and that is why it is our top play from tonight. Nice job, Jaden. Well, that is it for our show tonight, but hey, don't you want to know where we're going to be next week? We saw some good football tonight, no doubt about that, but I have a feeling next week is going to be pretty good too. All right, here we go. These are the games you can find Gridiron Glory crews at for week 6 of games. River Valley with the big win over Meigs tonight. We are going to be seeing them next week go against Wellston at Wellston in the FAC. We will see Chillicothe again go against my old hometown team, the Washington Courthouse Blue Lions. Shout out to the Blue Lions, baby. Courthouse sits at 3-2, and they're trying to figure things out moving behind head coach Chuck Williamson. And to the Hocking, and we will see the red-hot Southern Tornadoes take on the Rebels. Trey McNichol, engaged Schuler. They are balling out and leading the way for the squad. And we have another Hocking game. We will see the undefeated Trimble Tomcats going up against 4-1 Waterford. Trimble couldn't keep their streak of shutting out opponents, but you know, they only gave up 6 points against Worthington Christian. So, I mean, I guess that's pretty good, but I know these boys in Gloucester, they aren't happy with that. That Wildcats crowd will be electric though. And finally, in the MVL, we will have the game of the week with the Tri-Valley Scotties coming off a loss to Philo, going up against the 4-1 New Lexington Panthers. This game could turn out into a shootout because the Panthers offense is something else. They put up 82 points tonight. Sheesh, it's like a basketball game. I'm pumped to see the New Lexington crowd because they were active with us on Twitter. So New Lex, I'm coming Friday to see what you got. Now we are starting to see who has better playoff chances than others and who needs to improve quickly if they want this year to be their year. The season is not over though, and the ability to take over your conference, it's still there. We're excited for next week's matchups, so stick around because next week's show we'll have another installment of highlight calls, breakdowns of each game, and hit or miss. We will see you next week. Same time, same place to talk some more high school football and tell more stories that Southeastern Ohio has to offer. And hey, Mamaw, if you're still up and watching, I love you. And I'll see you soon. I'm trying to figure out some time. I got you. I miss you. I love you. All right, you know the deal. You bring glory, and we report it. And remember, there is nothing better than Friday nights in Gridiron Glory. So stick around. See us next week at 11:30 p.m. on Fridays and 11:30 a.m. on Saturdays. And again, there's nothing better than Friday nights in Gridiron Glory. See ya.